Hi everyone, this is Prasha Dutra and welcome to the Prasha Dutra Show. I'm really excited to be talking to a friend of mine who is so amazing and she has so much wisdom and so much to teach that all of this year while I was connected with her, I was like, Garma, when are you going to share your knowledge and wisdom with other people? And I'm so happy that she's finally doing it. Garima Vyas is a seasoned leader in tech with extensive experience driving digital transformation and delivering impactful solutions. As a practice director at Indigo Beam, she oversees project portfolios, team performance, and client success globally. Passionate about fostering high performing teams, she emphasizes on clear communication, strategic alignment, and she has a people first approach to leadership. She's also championed several initiatives focused on advancing STEM women, and she was serving previously as president and currently as the fundraising chair for AWIS Houston. A vocal advocate for mental health in the tech industry, Garma believes in cultivating environments where leaders and teams can thrive both personally and professionally. Whether building innovative solutions or sharing insights on leadership and well being, she brings an authentic and thoughtful perspective to the table, aka to this podcast. I'm so excited to interview Garima today because we're going to be touching on some very, very important topics that a lot of high performers, high achievers like yourself ignore in your tech journey, in your growth journey, in your career journey. So let's bring her on. And I've had the pleasure to know her for almost a year now. And it's just, I always learn something. And I'm really excited to have you on the show, Garima. Welcome.
Hey, Prasha, good to see you, and thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, I love it. Awesome. So let's get right into it, Garma. So tell us a little bit about when did you start to think that self-awareness is such an important part of growth and leadership, and also, like you said before we went live, how is it so important to creating balance? Because I feel like everybody's chasing that. Everybody wants work-life balance. Everybody wants this beautiful life, but I feel like somewhere they're ignoring this self-awareness aspect. So when did it appear to you like that I should focus on it?
So, excellent question right out the gate. I mean, you do not kid around. Self-awareness is something that you find, something that you come up on, and something that you seek whenever you are not feeling fulfilled. I think that's the way to think about it. Is fulfillment is what drives us, right? It gets us out of bed, the objectives, the goals, where we're going, that is always on our mind when we are existing in the present, right? But we always overlook the awareness aspect of that, which is being in the present. I personally recognize the lack of self-awareness I exhibited when I want to say 20, let's say 2022 was my pivotal year.
Mm.
My parents were in town, they were visiting me, and I was working like in the 70, 80 a 90-hour week, and I was just like a zombie just walking around like just working away. And they were looking to spend a little time with me, which is obvious. I mean, they're your parents, they're here to support you, and they were very much supportive of my work and schedule and demands of it. But then I noticed that they would come knock on my door and be like, hey, do you want to come have dinner with us? We're sitting down for dinner. Or do you have time? I have a question. Or we're thinking of going to here, and would you have time to like take us, or can we Uber? And I was like, no, man, this is not right. I need to kind of prioritize what I'm doing with my career and objectives. And I'm driven. I will go after, whatever goal I've set for myself. But I needed to balance. I recognize the ask that I was missing, which was finding that balance, and that started with the journey on self awareness, if I could
Mhm.
say that.
Yeah. I think it's always those aha moments, right? When we realize that what's the point of life if we can't spend time with the people that matter the most?
Gosh, yeah.
And we get really like driven. I know you're very, very driven. So how did you balance the drive? Because I think for most women, most high performers, it's so internal, intrinsic to us that it kind of has its own like gravitational pull and you can't stop. Like I struggle, right? Like my husband tells me all the time, he's like, you're depressed on weekends. And I'm like, I am, dude. Like anytime I have to like
I
not
mean, we
work,
laugh, but it is, yeah, it is
it's a big,
serious.
yeah, but it happens to like, but I feel like we enjoy it. So so how do you sort of create that balance of that energy which pulls you, especially for high performers. I feel like, again, we're so driven that that thing takes over and we don't know when to stop. So
Yeah.
once you realize that your values were not aligning with how you were showing up, how did you then get into a place where you could start to create some sort of balance? So what was that journey like?
Yeah, so I want to say I have to thank my primary for setting me on this path.
Mm,
I was during a routine visit. I She noticed some things the way I was framing my answers or conversations, and then she gave me a GAD-7. If you don't know, people can look it up. It is standard assessment questionnaire for anxiety and depression. And what came out of it was a moderately anxious Garima, anxiety Garima, and then moderately severe depressed Garima. And I was like, that's not right. I was dismissive right out the gate. I dismissed it because what I understood about anxiety and depression was that you are struggling to get out of bed, or you don't know, have the desire to put on your socks and shoes and get out of your house to do whatever. You lack motivation. That was the image that media and society had kind of put into my head, that this is what a depressed or anxious person looks like, which is far from truth. It is a huge misconception that people think that if you are dysfunctioning or if you're not operating at a standard, you are depressed or anxiety, otherwise you're fine. Incorrect. I was a high functioning person with anxiety and depression, which is, people say, you don't know what you're talking about. But take a test, like, spend a little time. Take the questionnaire, it's free, it's online. You can go
mm,
fill that out, and then it will give you the results, and you will
mm,
be surprised how those results kind of speak to how you feel. But that was what, as I said, primary kind of did this, and I took the step based on her direction to put myself into therapy. And boy, oh boy, that was life changing, because it didn't just, you know, so I showed up to the therapy lesson. I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what you're going to talk about. I am very high functioning. I'm a high achiever. I got my stuff figured out. I don't know what you're going to do for me. And she really broke it down for me. We tried all kinds of little itty bitty therapy frameworks at first. And then what I recognized was that I existed in this constant state of, what we talk about, anxiety and depression. So I'm going to talk about this concept of past and future,
mm,
which are the two crossroads that you kind of sit at the intersection of. When you are doing whatever you are doing in this world, but you are just doing it for the sake of doing it, when you are done, that is your past, and you look back on it and you find depression because, oh, I could have done it better, or I could have done it
mm,
different. Or you are at the forward looking state where you are talking about your future, which, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to be better, I need to have all of these things figured out. And that's straight up anxiety.
mm,
So you're constantly at that crossroad of anxiety and depression. And throw that into the mix of deadlines. You have, objectives from the clients and customers. You have objectives from your team that they need this and they need that. So your this coulda, woulda, shoulda state is what I think
mm,
most high achievers live in.
mm.
And only thing I will say right now is that is not you. That should not be your norm.
Yes. Yes, you should not accept that, because I think some of us wear that as a crown, right? Look, I love my job, or I'm a high performer. Or we go to the other side where we're like, because you break down and you're like, I don't want to do anything now, because that happens too, where you're like, you just crash and burn, So balance is super, super important. And I think when you think of leadership, why I love our chat today specifically is because leadership is taught in an external way all the time, right? Like the skills, the communication, how will I manage conflict, and it's always about like you and someone else. And it's like, you're always working on those skills of how you interact with people, and you think of that as leadership. But in reality, leadership starts with self-awareness, and leaders are the people who manage themselves the best. Then they can go manage other people. So self-management is again a new word for it, but I think that's what you're talking about, is like first you get to self-awareness that I have this GAD score, and I have, this is what's happening, some knowledge around it. And once you have that
Mhm.
awareness, then you can start the management part of it, which is basically going to be a lot of our conversation later in the podcast around how you can start that self-management path and create that balance as well. But before we go there, tell me a little bit more about what signs leaders are missing, and especially
Mm,
women leaders are missing in their day to day, and as they're moving through these cycles of like taking on more work, saying yes to things that they can't do, and ignoring the things that matter. And we're talking about women who have 2 kids and 3 kids, and they're also primary caregivers, and like so many different aspects. And the same applies to high performing men as well, right? Because
yeah.
they are also ignoring their mental health. So uh, how can they start on this self-awareness path of like, okay, I should reassess this, I should audit this in some way, shape, or form? And
Yeah.
when can they actually self-intervene and be like, hold on, I might not be doing this right? What are some red flags, what are some signs that leaders should be aware of?
Yeah, so I think the key telltale signs are, of course, when you are doing a assessment, or when you are thinking about the past, like we talked about. If that brings you depression, if that brings you anything, any feeling other than a feeling or a job well done or fulfillment, or you did the best you could, if you have conflicting thoughts around it, I think you should start on that journey right away.
Mm,
I don't want to say the future focused outlook. So, kind of what you were saying, you're either too depressed to get out of bed, or you're like, I just want to take it easy, I just want to lay here, or you are um kind of, let me go, let me go, let me go. So those are the two outlooks you had: past or the future. Those two things kind of take the front side of your brain, and you stay focused on those particular moments, either past or the future. Now, if you look at any of those and you get feelings that are far from ideal, which is happiness, fulfillment, I am good with where I am at, I think you should kind of explore this. Other things I would throw into the mix is if you are struggling to build relationships, whether they are with your team,
mm,
people around you in your personal life, or your outside life, or your social circle, etc. If you are struggling to talk and relate and show up for other people, or for yourself
mm.
for that matter, I think you should explore this path for sure. And then, of course, if you have the dreads of the existence, you should definitely explore
Definitely.
that. Sometimes people
But I
are like,
think,
I want to
yeah.
do it, but I don't want to do it. So if you have conflicting thoughts, yes, that's a good
Yeah,
way to
but I
think
think
about
you
it.
said a great thing in the beginning of this question, right? Where you said my primary care actually guided me towards it. So other people are probably also there to help you, but if you're not listening or seeking that advice, because honestly, what is that stat? I don't remember it, but like a huge percentage of people don't have a PCP in America. Like it's
Yes.
crazy.
Oh my gosh, yes, that is actually very correct. Constant care for yourself is very important. But Prasha, that is a tool in
Mm,
your belt. The onus should be on you to
true.
find the tools and use the tools. You cannot
Mm.
just blame your PCP. If you have a
Oh, no.
PCP and they never gave you a GAT 7, you should not be like, oh, my PCP never gave me a GAT 7.
Yeah.
You should definitely, anybody should take GAT 7s. Oh, there are all kinds of personality tests. There are all kinds
Yeah.
of, evaluations that are out there. But ask for help. Get to a point where even if you don't think you need help, I talk to a friend, or talk to people around you and say, "Hey, how do you feel
Mm,
in this particular situation?" Interview
yeah.
other people, right? You and I are interviewing right now, right?
True.
So when you interview other people who actually have an interest in you, in your life, in your future, and you just ask, whether it's your husband, whether it's
Mm,
your friend, whether it's your brother, whether it's your sister, you just say like, how would you handle something? And
yeah.
if their answers make you feel like, oh, I don't think I feel that way, or this is so far from what I could think about, then that's your
Then
clue to kind of explore that further.
yeah,
Exploration is the key. I mean,
the key.
okay, so you exist in a little bit of segue, but you exist and are a part of an organization where you use every tool to your leverage, right? You are a product leader who is leveraging all your teams, their skills, all kinds of internet AI tools, and reading up all of these books about customer success. So you are leveraging all of those tools to make your organization successful. Why wouldn't you do the same for yourself, where
Mm.
you go read all about what does it mean for me to be successful in life? What is the state of fulfillment? What is mindfulness? What is being in the present? And then finding all these different tools. You're doing research for a job that pays you, but your life pays you more than any job can pay you, right?
Yeah,
It pays you in minutes and time and existence, and we all know time is money. Take that money and put invest that in yourself and be the organization you want to be a part of.
love that. That's so important. And it's so funny because when I first got introduced to the concept of KPIs at work, when I got my
Mm,
first promotion, I was like, that's when the clarity loop came up, and that's when my own KPIs came up, and I'm like, oh my god, I need to have my own leading and lagging indicators. So you're really saying like things that I know has have helped me a lot in my career, and it's like treating yourself as the organization and as the most important organization, right? Like you're the most important thing. And I think that's what sometimes when we see new leaders or aspiring leaders, like I coach so many of them, I see it all
mhm.
the time that they're trying to build something external all the time when they should be building something internal. What makes you a leader is your strength, your mental capacity, your emotional capacity. What do you think is going to happen when you're going to lead a team of 100? Do you think it's going to be a walk in the park, or it's going to break you?
Eh,
So you have to build yourself up to it, and these are the ways you get there, is like with self-awareness and then building that toolkit that you're talking about. You want to add something to it?
I was going to say is every great leader I know or I look up to, they all are self aware. As in, they know themselves, they know what they like, but the main important thing is they know what they don't like, and they know what they don't have or possess in skill set. So they leverage their team, the people around them to help them with that. It is not always about focusing on things that you lack. It is just acknowledging that
Yeah,
you don't have XYZ skill, and in the pursuit of
absolutely.
the success, you can either spend all of your waking time fill in that gap yourself, or a partner, take them with you, make a friend, make a corporate friend, make a personal friend, whatever that takes. Find that gap, identify that gap, and bring somebody on to help you get there.
Yeah,
No man is an island. You need people to keep going in life.
yeah.
You're
And I
not
think that's
out
what,
there.
yeah, I think there's so little understanding of what leadership really is, where it starts, where it begins, and how important that self awareness element is for that. Now, tell us a little bit about how did you get out of that, um,
Mm.
being forward and being forward focused, or stuck in your past, and bringing yourself back to the present, which is basically what mindfulness is all about. But tell us what was that journey like? When did it finally start to, like, you started to get yourself out of that hole, and walk us through a little bit of that journey of the positive and being present.
Yeah, so I will say I'm still on that journey.
Of
I have
course.
not reached the destination quite yet, but I'm happy to share what I've done so far or
Yeah.
explored so far. I think definitely in therapy, I have a therapist who is what you would call an eclectic therapist. These therapists kind of pull from all the fabric of all the different interventions that are available for everybody to be a part, to be on their mental health journey, may it be a CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT, EMDR. So all of these tools they pull from.
Hmm.
I didn't know what that was. So I found somebody who did. I brought them along on my journey. So that's number one. Another thing that I did in in my life is making meditation or spending time in the present a conscious part of my day. So it is, people meditate and they talk about challenges with meditation, and it is great to be on that path for meditation because that's what brings you into the present, which is not the past or the future or anxiety or depression. It is just the state of being, and you don't have emotions attached to that state. So because you didn't miss a deadline, you're not going to miss a deadline. So you're just here. You're just here. You're centered. And that really is, in my opinion, was the key difference maker for me to be in the present, which is the self-awareness is another word for being in the present. So all
Mm,
of that kind of pulls together. Additionally, I mean, of course, I've had a number of coaches. I spent a lot of time identifying my purpose in life, what makes me happy, what are my motivating factors in life, what will keep me going. In fact, as a part of a funny story, as a part of the purpose exercise, I interviewed my mom,
mm,
and she actually told me, and the reason I interviewed my mom, because you want to think about these happiness situations and concepts of what makes you happy outside of these things like making money, making and meeting a
mm,
deadline, delivering on family obligations, job obligations. So you don't want to clutter your brain with that information when you think about, oh, I'm happy when I deliver a project. That's not it. I So she made me interview my mom, and my mom told me things like, oh, eating good food makes you happy. And I was like, okay, that's a great thing. So go on a journey about yourself, which is kind of something what I did. And then, of course, I've had plenty of coaches. Prasha has helped me a lot trying to figure out all of the tying things, bits and pieces, loose information together for clarity.
mm,
Confidence coaching, which is Prasha is excellent at. And then I've had leadership coaches
mm.
who have kind of taught me things along the
Yeah.
lines of like communication frameworks and reading the room, and how to what kind of leader you are and how do you carry yourself in the present and all of that jazz.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots
Yeah.
of time
It's a
spent.
lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of
Mhm.
intention behind it. And money doesn't even mean anything because,
I was gonna say,
yeah, we're
yeah.
both hooked on this stuff. So I feel like self-awareness is a journey that's the most fun journey you can ever take. Getting to know yourself is probably the only reason you're on this planet. If you read any spiritual text, any smart people or enlightened beings that have been before us would tell you that you know it's a journey to know yourself. That's why we're all here. That's the purpose of life, to get to know yourself better. And just like you, when I got on this journey, I just I just got hooked, and I just wanted to know more, and I wanted to explore more. And then once I learned it, I was like, I want to teach more. Like now I need to like share. You know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of set me on this path. So self awareness, like you said, it's like these are the tools, but you have to go on your own journey. Like I feel like some people are avoiding that. They're hoping that suddenly because you had listened to this podcast, their life's going to be perfect. And it's like, no, this is just us inviting you into this world of self awareness, self development, and self growth, right?
So you have to think about it, and now I hate to coach you, but let me tell you a story.
Please do. Because
So
let me finish what I was saying, then you start.
sure, go
Because
ahead.
what I was trying to say was, when we're talking about these tools for self awareness, I think everybody has to go on their own journey and find those tools for themselves. And to just sort of summarize your answer, I was going to say, you could do coaching, you could do mental health, you could do therapy, you can find your form of knowledge or education in whichever format you want, but you can't ignore it because it's not going to happen just because you did one thing. You have to do the whole thing, and you have to be engaged in that journey for a long time. That's kind of what I got from that answer, and I just want to build on it because that's kind of what I did. And I'm like, it's
Yeah.
not never done. And as your responsibilities grow, that need grows as well. So that work's kind
Yeah.
of never done. But yeah, tell me more. Let's go.
So our brains are layered, right? And what happens is the internal part of our brain is a primitive part of our brain. And then, as there are other layers that are built around it, those are evolutionary layers, which means that they were built as we became more and more accustomed to existing in society, playing not well with other people. We're not just hunters and gatherers anymore. We have more of fine tuning decision making skills. Do I want coffee? Do I want tea? Like all of those kind of are on the outer side of your brain. Now, what happens is we exist in this world today, right? I'm not talking about hundreds of years ago. Today in this world, we mostly operate on that outside layer of our brain, which
Mm,
is we're not hunting, we're not gathering, we're not using primitive skills, we are using fine motor skills and decision making skills. So when people get challenged, or I don't want to say attacked, but that's kind of the challenge is the attack, right? So you are basically somebody is questioning the work that you have done. Somebody is screaming at you for not delivering the work that you were supposed to have done, or there's conflict at workplace, people are not getting along, whatever that may be. The primitive part of your brain kind of takes over when that happens. Now,
mm,
when you are in that primitive part of your brain, when once you are triggered, once you're challenged, or once you're attacked, you just
mm,
go straight down into the very tiny little part of your brain. All it can do is fight or flight. Now, fight or flight is a very common response, and everybody talks about it, and there's frameworks to address this. But
yeah,
what you were saying kind of relates to that is until you recognize that you are in that flight mode, which is, I don't want to deal with it. I don't need coaching. I don't need self-awareness. I just need to address this little problem that is right there in front of me, in my vision, right in front of me. And I just focus, which is very like I am being hunted by this tiger, and I'm just gonna sit here, keep my eye on that tiger, and just stay right here.
mm,
That is where most people exist once challenged. So for them to recognize there is a outer layer, get out there, get out of your brain, get out. People say like, get over yourself, like, get
yeah,
out there. So that is where you need to be. And one of those things, once you are outside that shell, then you can find tools, then
yeah,
you can go on a journey. So I think all of it kind of
yeah.
starts with, as
It,
I said, am I not happy? When I look at my past or my future, does that bring me fulfillment? And if it's
mm,
the answer is no, you go on that journey today,
yeah,
because
yeah.
everything else, money, it takes time, it takes all of that is par for the course, but you just have to start.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like when people are fixated on saving themselves from the tiger, you have no control over your central nervous system, right? Because it has taken
Yes.
over, and it's very hard consciously to overcome it because the fear is real. Like it's happening, right? Like you can't tell somebody that there's no tiger. It actually is there for them, and to be able to switch off that limbic side of the brain, that lizard brain, you have to switch it off. And I feel like that's why having these practices of meditation, going for a walk, like little things that you can do that can unplug you from the threat. Because if you're obsessing over the threat, that is the worst place you can be, from even a biological perspective, because it affects your health. It affects
Yes.
it affects all parts of your body. It creates like high blood pressure issues. It creates, it kind of, think about it, right? Like if you shocked something again and again with hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and, it's going to break eventually. So what, like you were saying, so I think that's why it's important. To self-care is important, stepping away is important, not always being, they say like if you're trying to solve a problem, just stop and try to come back to it tomorrow, because you
Yeah.
don't want to get that central nervous system in a place where it's like completely active and now you can't do nothing. Like you're screwed. Like at that point you can't take over. So
Yep.
I know meditation, you mentioned a tool. I want to add, like for me, self hypnosis is a great tool. I love self hypnosis. You know me. I
Uh-huh.
just love it so much because I'm sleeping and it's just kind of acting in the back and, during my naps or whatever. And it kind of just reprograms my subconscious, but also calms me down so that I don't have reactive responses. And same thing with meditation, same thing with, anything that stops the thought process and puts a gap between you and your next thought can
Yeah.
help you overcome that stress that your cortisol reacting all the time.
Yeah.
But if you'd never unplug and you're so obsessed by with this idea that you're going to fix it, you're going to solve it,
Yeah.
then you're just going down a path which will probably take you to like that burnout stage where then you would have to stop completely because the
Yeah.
body's going to get rest either way, is going to ask for it.
Yeah. Or it's gonna make you
um
do it. Yeah.
exactly. So tell us a little bit more about how did you then build. So you started on this journey, you started getting coaches, you started getting a lot of mentorship, and then what was the result of all of that in your leadership style at your job, working with teams? Like, how did it evolve your career? How did it actually bring tangible results, beyond personal happiness and joy and all those things? What else happened because you went on this journey for the last couple of years?
Yeah. So I think the one thing I loved about being on this journey was that I was sleeping through the night. And I think that is when I registered the importance of being on this journey. I went from sleeping 3, 4, 5 hours at night to sleeping 7, 8 hours at night. And Prasha, I cannot tell you how much of $1 million person you feel when you have had a good night's sleep. Then you show up to work with you actually know what your intentions are, you actually know what your goals are, you actually can think beyond what is on the surface, reading between the lines. And then, of course, you have a smile, you have a personality, people love you because you are putting your best foot forward. I think it just opened the doors for success. I actually started focusing on how I can make this job, right? We're all doing a job, right? All of our core identities are attached to this job that we're doing. And that became a part of my fulfillment factor. So it actually started making me feel fulfilled. Another thing that I learned from being in therapy and working with coaches is reframing of thoughts. So
Mm-hmm.
I would have a day where I would do 5 really great things and 5 things I cannot wait to get out of, or conversations, tasks, whatever. Um, and I would close my laptop and lay in bed and just just think and ruminate over just those 5 things I did not enjoy for that day. Reframing of my thoughts help me focus on the positives for that I really enjoyed during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And my perspective about the quality of life that I was living was amazingly shifted. And that shows up with whether you're interacting with a client
Yeah.
or whether you're interacting with your team. They can tell, people around you can read the energy that you are
Yeah.
bringing into work, and they know you are a happy camper and you will get stuff done and you will have the results because you showed up to work with that let's get it done outlook. And you have that outlook because you got a good night's sleep, you focused on your success stories, you focused on your intentions, so you showed up to the best way, at the best spot that you can. And I think that has been my biggest person. I mean, jobs, titles, money, all of that you make, it is in my book, it is a side store car to
Mm.
your, the thing that you're taking on a ride with you. But how I feel as I operate through the day, which is the best I am, the best I can be, I think that's where I would say is my personal success
Yeah.
story so far. Still on that journey, but
Of
yes.
course. This is journey of a lifetime. I don't think it ever stops, right? It's always next level, next level. Even in learning about yourself, there's no end to that. So I love that. And I think one of the things that people need to understand about leadership, and also from this talk that I'm just starting to like sort of crystallize for everyone, is like you have to emotionally regulate yourself. You also have to be the role model for all these people, especially if you're thinking about teams and driving really big projects, driving angry clients, lots of money involved. To
Yeah.
expect that that's going to come stress free is like, is silly. Like, no, you have to
No.
be prepared for all of that. And the best analogy I can give you is like, if you're a pilot of a plane, and if the plane's crashing, right, how would a pilot respond and how would a passenger respond? And if you can understand your current situation, whether it's a failed project, oh, I don't have a job, 60 days on H1, marriage broke down, whatever is happening in your life, you just need to figure out, am I reacting like a passenger or am I reacting like a pilot? And so if I'm
I
reacting like
love
a
that
passenger,
analogy.
right,
Yes,
because most
yes.
of us are in that reactive mode of screaming and yelling. Now just do this, flip it, imagine a passenger trying to save that plane from crashing. Like if a
Yep,
plane is crashing, are you acting like a passenger and can you be trusted with riding that plane? You can't, right? And
yep.
when you look at pilots, what do they have? They have skills, they have practice, they have
Mhm.
tools, they have checklists. And
Yeah,
by the way, they have imagined every single scenario that can go wrong and will go wrong and prepared for it,
yep.
right? That's what makes them leader. That's why they can fly 500 people across the Atlantic. And so, if you're going to do anything value, you're going to be in charge of all these people and their lives and their livelihoods as a leader. And so, you must be a pilot. And to become a pilot, it takes years of training. And so, with coaching and everything that you and I are doing, it's not necessarily because we love to like blow our money. It's because we understand that we're walking towards very big responsibilities in the future. And unless we get all the skills, unless we get prepared, we won't be able to lead people, right? We won't be able to
Yeah,
lead products and companies and technology. And of course, we won't be able to live the life that we really want to live, which is of
yeah.
fulfillment and happiness. So it just comes to my mind, that analogy. I always remind myself, who am I acting like, a passenger or a pilot? And if I'm acting a passenger, let's go to sleep and come back, or find a pilot, which is what a
Yes.
coach is, right? Like find a pilot to get you out of this situation for now.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
kind of what I said. You're lacking that skill. Find that person, bring them along. That's exactly it. Yeah.
yeah, I
So
love
I like this concept of finding a role model. You just mentioned that we all look at people and we find a role model. For everybody, that role model is different. And you
mm-hmm.
know why? Because that is their representation of who they want to be, and that's actually a food for thought. Is look at all the people that you admire, look at what they're good at, look at what they're are presenting themselves and putting themselves out there with their skills, their knowledge, and then the content, what they're talking about, and then see if that can help you identify where you want to be in your journey, because role models are personal to everyone.
Hmm.
I'm not talking about like finding an actor who
No.
does charity and you say, oh, that's my role model. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like a role model who's doing something that you look at, you join their
Yeah.
podcasts, you listen to their LinkedIn lives, you follow them on social media, and you're like, this is so good. You read something that they have written and it's like, oh my gosh, this is riveting. And that is your role model. So I take that information, connect the dots in your brain, and say, here is my future state. Here is
Mm-hmm.
my future self. And
Yeah.
find a way to make the connection and jump.
Yeah.
Put that on
I
your
love
roadmap.
I love it. That's what I like to call relatable role models. That's pretty much what my TEDx
Mm,
is about. And I tell people the three things you need in a role model, right? Like one is
yeah.
they should only be 2-3 steps ahead of you. They cannot be CEOs of companies. They cannot be these people that are unachievable, unattainable, and they'll just make you feel like you have done nothing in life, right? Like how many people look at
Yeah.
somebody who's like 25-year-old billionaire and be like, I want to be like that, but you're nowhere close. Like that's the opposite of role model. Right? The
That's
second thing is
aspirational at best.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
second thing is they should have overcome the struggles you are going through today, right? So if you're going through
That's a good way
something,
to think about that. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
and the third thing is they should be accessible, so you should be able to send them a message, so which is
Mm,
what makes it human. And then you can say, oh, I want to be like Garima because I just had a chat with her on LinkedIn, so they
okay.
cannot be like on this moon that you can't reach ever. But I think as
Yeah.
adults we need relatable role models, just to
Yeah.
reinforce your point. And they are different to different people because we have different struggles, we have different things that we want in life.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, I feel like it's really hard to like humanize like the things that you're going for, especially if you're in the middle of a mental health crisis, which most high achievers are.
I mean, we are invited to the same party of wanting to be a high achiever. That road is not paved with roses, that I will
Mm-mm.
tell you. And it would be it would be not in our best interest to kind of think about that, oh, I can or a high performer without having spent time planning or getting ready, reading, writing, talking, connecting. There's so many pieces to becoming a high performer or achiever. Yeah. So kind of going back to where we started, high achievers and high performers struggle to find a balance between delivering or being driven with objectives and finding fulfillment. That
Mhm.
is the crux, the meat of the sandwich that we're all trying to eat here.
Yes.
Is you are driven, you are going, you want to go somewhere, you want to be something, you want to be someone, and you will do whatever it takes to get there. But is it fulfilling? Is
Yeah.
it making you happy? Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? That's the key question there. If you're not getting 8 hours of sleep or 7 hours, let's be reasonable. If you're not getting that nice sleep, I hate to break it to you, like you need some self-awareness and some
Yeah.
mental health work.
Yeah. I think how would you like, so I feel like a lot of people, especially my listeners, tend to be, really busy, like I said, very busy. All leaders are, or anybody who's trying to accomplish a lot in life doesn't have time. And then you throw in the mix like 3 kids, 4 dogs, 2 cats, like, all
Sure.
these other things. How do you think leaders can start to make some time for this stuff? Because that is the
Mm,
next question. It's like, oh, great, Garima and Prasha, like you guys are amazing. However, you don't know how many kids I have, so don't tell
yeah.
me how to do this. But you tell me, like, how would someone make time for self awareness and therefore improve their leadership skills?
Yeah. So treat yourself like an organization. First
Mm,
of all, give yourself an objective, a business objective, an existence objective, however you want to frame it. And then identify what you need to do to achieve that objective.
mm,
Lay a roadmap for you. I know all these product leader nerds out there, they're going to love the word that I'm tying that to a roadmap because we all nerd out on the roadmaps. But yeah, tie that into a roadmap. Rome wasn't built in a day. We're not trying to boil the ocean. Just see the forest through the trees. Just keep your eyes out on that objective.
mm,
Lay your tasks, lay your step by step plan if you need to. Maybe start with small sprints, do a little bit now,
mm,
plan a little bit for the next, plan a little bit more for the next, come back, revisit, do an introspection, see how well you did some things and
mm,
how not so good you did on the other things, and then reassess, go back on that journey. It is not you yourself, your journey and the achievement and success that you are bringing to the table is not very different from all what the product leaders do out there for the products they're trying to take live. It
mm.
is all about small,
Excellent.
chunky goals. You set those one after the other, trickle down impact. You get one thing right, great, keep
Mhm.
going. You got
Yeah.
something wrong, restart, reassess. Do it the way
Yeah.
talk to other people. Do it the way somebody else might have tried it.
Yeah.
It is a journey. It is all about the journey.
I love it. Build versus buy, right? Like, should I do it myself or should I get someone else to do it?
I mean, buying, and I don't think buying applies in our lives,
No,
right?
but
You
I'm just
cannot
saying,
buy
like, get
someone else's
the.
life.
No, but I'm saying buying in terms of coaching. So I'm like, build the whole thing on your own or get a coach to like help you build it. You know what I
I
mean?
think the coach falls in build, Prasha, because you
Yeah.
are using, so even in building, you still have to take bits
Yeah.
and pieces of things from other, you're
Expertise. Yeah.
all working with cross-functional teams, right? So you are buying the skills of a UX
Absolutely.
designer to help you with the
Yeah.
building the product that you're building. So I
Yeah.
think that falls in build.
Yeah.
Buying is impossible. It's not an option for you because you cannot buy someone else's life. And if you have figured that out, I am all ears. Tell me, hit me up on
That's what
LinkedIn
we're
and
trying
tell
to
me I
build.
did it wrong.
That's the dream product I'm trying to build, right?
There you go. Yeah, we're all the
I love
dreams
it.
products of ourselves. So,
I love it. I love it. So, with all that being said, I think what I want to add to that was just value assessment. Something we've been doing more in the academy is like, okay, why don't you have the time? Because you don't value it, right? Like, you value a dog more than you value yourself, your mental health. And that's just a value thing, right? Like four things make up values: how much time you invest in something, how much money you invest in something, how much focus and attention you give to something, and how much of your space is used for something, right? So if in your house there's not even one corner dedicated to you, that
Mm-hmm.
means you don't value yourself, right?
Yep.
if
Yep.
if there's not even one mental health book or like one self-help book, you don't value yourself. If you're telling me, oh Prash, I can't buy a book because it's $18, but then you go and buy the finest pedigree for the dog, then it's just value assessment. It's like, where am I spending those four things? Reassess and keep it to three. I had a client last week telling me, I want to do all these things but I can't, and we went through a value list and there were 13 things. I'm like, okay, hold on. Per quarter you can only focus on top three, so pick three, run the quarter, come back, reassess, and it'll change,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
If you're saying no to some friendships, it's only for the quarter. We'll come back, right? Like
Yeah.
we're saying, listen, I don't have time because I'm building something right now. So values are super important as well as you're making some time, especially for moms. I say this because I'm a mom, so I'm like, you guys value the kids, that's great, but they cannot be below you. My system is simple: me first,
Yeah.
then family, then everything
Yeah.
else can come. But most women are doing family first, work
Yeah.
next, friends next, later, like I said, dogs and cats and everything else, and then me
Yeah.
at the bottom.
That's interesting that you're having these conversations because I'm clearly not having these conversations.
Yeah.
I really think that my mental state of being,
Hmm.
what aligns with me registers with my brain. What does not align with me falls sideways. If somebody came to me and said, I do not prioritize my mental health, I don't know if I'm spending a lot of time convincing them or trying to
Oh,
explain things
but
to them.
right.
I
But
think I'm
it's my job.
I know I was gonna say is I think you as a coach have a very different experience
Yes.
where you're having to explain this.
Yeah,
And
because I
it's
have to like
interesting.
influence them to prioritize themselves, and they've taken the first step, right? Like they're in the programs, they've
Yeah.
taken the first step, but I think implementation is really, really hard. And I also think maturity is a different thing too. You and I are in a different age of life where a lot of these things are already sorted. People I work with or people who are listening also can be in any age group, right? Like starting their first jobs and 2 years in, and everything's falling around, like collapsing around them. They don't know what to do because school didn't give us any of these skills. Like they have no life
No.
skills, they have no understanding of like how to deal with all these challenges coming at them. So it's interesting how, we all can interact with this information in a different way because we have different contexts coming around, with this. But I love it. I think values are important. I think, like you said, just self-assessment of like, am I happy, am I fulfilled, like, do I like this, do I hate this? Like, it takes two
Yeah.
minutes, or go online, take that GAD test, talk to your healthcare providers, ask your friends, have you seen any changes in me? Like, I'm not sleeping well, like, what do you recommend? Yesterday I was talking to a client, and she was telling me all about how depressed she feels, and literally all I told her was, not depressed but like demotivated, and all I said was, what are you eating? And she tells me she's hooked
Yeah.
on Chick-fil-A, and I'm like, maybe it's
Oh,
time to
yeah.
like get better food choices. So it's like everything is connected, and it can start with something small like self check-in, or like your parents did for you, a little intervention of like, hey, it seems like you don't have a lot of time for us.
Yeah.
Or it can also start with just having a networking chat with someone. I know a lot of the girls who are watching have spoken to you, you've met them through some of our events or even through LinkedIn, and you're so kind to like share your time with people. But yeah, little things like you could do to like start to self-evaluate. Even after this call, you guys can take 5 minutes to assess like, hey, am I happy or not? On a scale of 0 to 10, what is it? And then if it's not where you want it to be, go find the tools, go find the resources. So
Yeah,
as
ask
we
someone for help. Absolutely. I mean, I'm happy to sit down with anybody and say, "Hey, well, here's my journey. Here's the tools I know of. Here's my therapist number," or whatever you need. Just I'm
You're
happy
super
to help
helpful.
people. Yeah, it's all
Love,
about the community. At the end of the day, as I said, no man is an island. So
yeah,
help each
I
other.
love it. I love it. So tell us, what's your final message for leaders on how they can improve their mental health, be self-aware, help others, build the products they want, build the companies they want.
Yeah.
What's your final message?
I think the final message is just know yourself better. Just spend time getting to know yourself better. take advantage of all the help and the tools that are out there. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a mentor, a coach, a coworker, a family member. Have some conversations, not at a superficial level of, "Hi, how are you doing?" But like really get into how things and incidents and events and history kind of makes you feel. Spend time. Right, journaling is always a great way to start. And if that feels overwhelming, just take voice notes or spend time reflecting on your day and come to a point where you can identify if things are, making you happy, not making you happy. I was an expert of like sweeping things under the rug. It's like if I don't have to deal with this emotion, I don't want to deal with emotion because I got bigger, better things to do, bigger fishes to fry and be something somewhere in the future. So don't do that anymore. I think that's just the biggest lesson that I have learned, and I'm happy to share that with people.
I love it. I love it. And in the interest of that, actually, I started a free group for everyone, whoever wants to like join. It's totally free. It's a school group, and it has most of my content, the top level of a lot of my program, my meditations, my knowledge around like how to do this transformative work. And if you're like, I don't want to pay anything yet, I'm just want to explore because I'm so inspired, then go join that free group and just like I said, it's totally free, and you'll meet other people who are on this journey as well. And maybe that's the starting point, right? Like maybe that's where you're getting started, and getting to like just very slowly build on that journey.
Just read. Yeah, just read about it. Just spend time exploring other people's. There's plenty of content out there. Just read, just research, kind of sit with it. Let's see how it makes you feel. And then you
Love
don't
it.
have to do anything to start.
Yeah, I love it. So join the free group. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, that's the thing. Like I think a lot of people are afraid sometimes. They're like, oh, but like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Because it's commitment. Change is hard. Oh, I'll have to like really look at my demons. I'll have to like therapy is not easy, Garima. You did it for 2 years. Coaching is not easy. I'm faced with my demons like legit on a daily basis as I'm going through the business building and product building, and I've become very brave in the process. But before I used to be so scared and like, oh my
Yeah.
God, this coach is going to bring up something I don't want to talk about right now.
But how is that any different than learning a programming language? Or
Yeah,
you don't know how to write something, but you're scared, right? You are out of your mind. I don't know how to do this. But you read about it, you spend a little time,
skill building.
researching, talk to a coworker, talk to a friend who's done it, and you get there
Yeah,
eventually. Your mental health is exactly the same. Finding your values and what makes you happy is exactly the same.
yeah. No, I love it. It's like a skill building, right? Like it's like building yourself up. And one thing I want to add before I ask you the last question was
Sure.
self confidence is self trust. Confidence comes from the word fider, which means trust, and self
Hmm.
trust means self confidence. So if you are trying to trust yourself more, just look at this analogy. Would you trust somebody on the street? No, because you don't know them, right? Because you don't
Hmm.
love them. But you trust the people that you love the most and know the best, right? So
Yeah.
therefore, you should know yourself the best and love yourself the best, and therefore you will become confident because that's all you need to trust yourself.
Oh, that's funny because I've heard it a different way. Is in order for you to be successful in a role or something
Mhm.
that requires other people's inputs and buy-ins and stakeholders, any product leadership type of role, it's called the know, trust, and love, which is if people know you, they trust you, and they love it or like whatever, they are your then they go on that journey with you, whether
Yeah.
you're building something, whether you're finding clients, whether you are again you have a team that kind of shows up with you to do objectives. Yeah, no, trust, and like I think that all
And do it
uh
internally. Go inwards, right? Like not only out
oh,
external,
absolutely.
but
Yeah,
if you
know
do it for yourself,
yourself,
it's gonna
trust
be so.
yourself, and then you like yourself,
It'll
and
be
then you'll
so
be on
fun.
your way.
But I feel like people keep running from themselves. So this is a journey you have to take on your own when you're ready. Use all the tools that Garma has shared. Use all the ways that you can start to get out of your shell and make your life better, because that's what it's about. It's like it's just the quality of life. That's why you want more money. That's why you want a better job, a better title. All these things you want. Why? Because you want a better quality of life. But you could start with better quality of life to then chase the things that you want rather than putting the cart before the horse. So, which is what has worked really well for, I think, both me and Garima, is like we put the quality of life first and then everything else
Not
can.
always. Recently. In the last few years,
Yeah,
yes. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Like in last few years, I think that's the biggest transformation, and I think that's the growth as well, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't expect a 20-year-old to know this stuff because they haven't gone through a lot of stuff, right? Like, so you have to go through your own journey. And again, sometimes with these podcasts and now on knowledge being like so, freely available, hopefully you don't have to go through as many pitfalls as we did over the years, right? Like that's the hope. Awesome. So
Yes.
before I let you go, Garima, tell us what's your favorite book?
Oh gosh, like anything, like fiction, nonfiction, anything, or just
Just
health,
whatever.
self-help?
The best test book you've ever read.
I recently read Kafir Boy, and I couldn't tell you the author. It's about apartheid in South Africa and a story about a young boy who kind of persevered through all of these
Wow.
horrible challenges in life and went on this journey to kind of do what he needs to do in life. And I think it is the most interesting story I have ever read. I think that is like it's fiction. Sorry, it's kind of based in truth, but it's written in the
That's
style of
awesome.
fiction storytelling, etc. But I love that book. I just finished reading it, I want to say a week ago, and I cannot get this out of my mind.
I love it. That's my next book.
There you go.
So I'm
I
just trying
hope
to
you
build
enjoy
my own.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been reading this just because it's right here. I want to share it. But
Mhm.
like I've been reading this, and it's a really cool book on problem solving. It's called Fixed, and
Nice.
she actually uses modern art
Mm.
to teach problem solving, and I thought that was super cool. And she runs these workshops for army communities, like she goes to like combat zones and talks to the army generals and stuff like that. She talks to CEOs, nurses. She runs these workshops called the fine art of problem solving. It's called the actual. Oh, the art of perception. She's the founder and president of the Art of Perception, a New York-based organization that conducts professional development courses for leaders around the world, from Secret Service to prison wardens. It's
Mm.
so cool. I love it. And she actually shows like all these popular modern art work and tells you all about it, like the colors and the history and like, and it was incredible because as tech people, as people in the sciences, we are so fixated on the frameworks and like the drawings and like so logical. But I thought
Yeah.
she brings the two parts of the brain together and talks about it from a creative perspective, which I feel like, again, is just another conversation for another time. Is like creative problem
Sure.
solving is like a
Oh
great
gosh,
great
yeah.
thing.
I
Yeah,
love arts and creativity and trying to incorporate that
you should
into,
read it. You'll like
yeah.
it.
Okay, I will.
It's
I
a
wrote
little
it down.
thick. It's not the most fun book, but it's I thought, just I love like new perspective. I'm like, shake my perspective because I'm definitely biased. I'm definitely thinking about it in one way. And if you can
Yeah.
sort of like shock my system a little bit, then I learn faster.
That's growth for you, right? You cannot grow if you don't get shocked or
Love it.
challenged. So there you go. I love
Excellent.
it for you.
So tell us, Garima, how people can reach out. What can our community do for you?
Watch this video, take what you can out of it. If you have questions, I am happy to help you with whatever questions you may have or tools that you may need. Um, Read as much as you can. I'm gonna try to write some more about self-awareness coming up here in the next few weeks. So yeah, read, ask. I think help yourself. If Prasha or I can do anything for you, Prasha, here I'm volunteering you for this because I know you like it.
I
So if
love
we
it.
can do anything, yeah, tap us on the shoulder. We'll be here to help.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Garima, for your time. And thanks everyone for watching. This was a great, great conversation. And like Anu said, Garima, please do us a favor and start a podcast. I want to read some of the comments. Anu said, "This
Okay.
is awesome." Karen said, "What an amazing webinar." Kashish said, "Such informational conversation." I'm loving this, treating yourself as an organization. Some Vikram said, "Building up one's EQ." Um, oh, hold on, alongside, I'm going to just show it here so I can read it. Building
Okay.
your EQ alongside taking care of self and our body ensures a healthy workday. That's awesome. Like, see, look at this giant message. Garima do us a podcast. Please start a podcast. Everyone's,
Oh
please start
gosh.
a podcast. So
All right,
that's your
I'll take
sign,
that
Garima.
into consideration for sure. I'll think about that. I'll
That's,
reflect on it. I'll go on a meditation thing with that. Maybe something good will come out of that.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Garima, for your time. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back with another episode